don't know what you got. There we go. It's starting. I'll give you a link as soon as it's up. Okay, it's up. All right. Inappropriate message for review. Not now. We don't have time. And let me get you a link. Nope, that's server code. Oh, here we are. Share link. Command copy. All right. Let me know when you share it, because I want to share it to the Podcaster and Streaming Alliance.
Okay.
All right.
And I don't think I have, because this is a new phone. I don't think I have my Twitter linked to the Behind the Iron Throne. Can somebody share it on Twitter as well?
I wish I could. I got rid of Twitter.
Oh.
I cannot stand it anymore. I hate Twitter with a hot passion.
Okay, well, I'll look into my locker then and see if I can find it and get it ready for the next time.
I mean, I still have it. There's the link. I still have it. It's just I don't like to use it. If that makes sense. Hey, Big E, woo! First. Nice. That is awesome.
Like it, like it, like it.
Okay. Everyone joining us live, we're just setting up here to get everyone into the show. Sharing it all over social media. Oh, you don't know.
Okay, I'm sharing it right now on the page, okay?
Okay.
And then I'm sharing this to the other page.
If it don't feel right, then it's wrong. It's stuck in my head.
It's a true.
My son and I watched Nailed It on Netflix, and I'm obsessed with baking and buttercream and fondant. And I couldn't bake my way out of a paper bag, but it looks like a lot of fun. That it does.
Okay, John, I'm sharing it to your page, so you don't have to share it again. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I wish I could tell Jimmy this too.
All right. So you have it shared just now. Nice. Okay, you shared it on mine too?
I'm sharing it to yours right now, unless you'd like me to let you do that.
No, that's fine. You can share it to mine too, please. Let's see. I want to share it to, not a page. I want to share it. I wouldn't let me share it to where I want to share it. Share on a page you manage. No, I want to share it to a group. That's it. Share it in a group. The group name. Here we are. Podcast and Video Stream Alliance. Okay. Post. All right. Hey, Armani.
Trish
Armani!
is here.
Nice.
Trish?
I love the Godzilla picture.
No. I was just making sure that I had everybody shared.
Okay,
so I
sorry.
was doing Trish and you and me and Gisela and Trin.
Awesome.
And I didn't do Jimmy, but I'm going to do it now.
All right, we had a little hiccup, but the stream has reconnected and is resumed. Why is it always have to be a problem with this? I'm going to have to just get a camera hooked up and just do this totally different. Get a streaming camera. It just drives me crazy how this works sometimes. I just want to be able to.
Everything that worked so great for so long.
If I just had a lot more money, I could just have like a TriCaster. I could have somebody in here pressing buttons for me. It would be great.
Right.
All right, everyone in everyone in YouTube, let us know if we sound okay in the chat, please. That would be awesome.
So Big E, really quick, I don't know if it's okay to answer this question, and we might even just go back. We may not be talking about specific chapters in Fire and Blood. I think what we're going to do is just do an overall discussion on the book, its release, our initial thoughts, some reviews. We'd be happy to talk about some of your thoughts as well, but we're not actually going to touch bases in depth in this specific episode.
Thank you, Robert. Wow, we have let's see who's in the chat here. I should be able to, participant. Okay, here we go. So we have Big E, Hassan, And Robert in the chat right now.
What's
okay,
up, guys?
Great.
What up?
So awesome. All right, we are ready to start. You guys are good?
I'm good.
Okay, give me a second because I'm still learning this new format. Okay, that sounds pretty good.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Warning, this podcast contains explicit language and spoilers.
You guys are hearing the intro?
This is Behind the Iron Throne, your unofficial Game of Thrones podcast.
I had to edit the other day for noise. Okay, and here we go. In a 3. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. In a 3, 2, 1. Well, hello, welcome back, my Game of Thrones army. I'm your host, Chris Gray, and this is episode 197, where we will be talking about Fire and Blood. And if you're watching the show live on our YouTube channel, Behind the Iron Throne.tv, you can see I'm wearing my Fire and Blood House Targaryen shirt for this special occasion. I also want to remind everybody that we are not recording live on Facebook Live any longer. And if you want to join us, you're going to have to check us out on the YouTube channel, Behind the Iron Throne.tv. All the links will be in the description of the show. Now, let's get my co-hosts introduced. We're going to say hi to you to the wonderful, the amazing, the knower of many things in the Game of Thrones universe. She is the mistress of whispers. One of my close friends, Andrea. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be back. Chris, you make me feel so special whenever you say my name.
You are very
like that.
special.
Thank you so much. It's a really fun time. I'm really looking forward to the show. As you guys know, it's been a long week and a half for me, but it's going to be a good one. And also, you're here. John's here. It's 3 of us. It's 3 heads of the dragon. We're pretty good. Just missing Trin.
Yeah, we're missing Trin. Oh, and we miss Trin so much. Who actually can whisper to dragons. It's amazing. I watched her do it. She stayed here for a while.
She's their mother.
But I'm told that she should be getting back into her house for Christmas if all things work out okay. So that is awesome. I want to introduce our next host. He believes he is the king of everything when he is the king of absolutely jack and shit. And Jack's out of town. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Put your hands in the air. Wave them like you just don't care. He is our bald-bearded king of the North, General Jonathan Stoma Starklover. Welcome.
What's up, guys? I missed you guys last time. I'm so happy to be back on this show. And it's King in the North, Chris. King in the North.
The King in the North has returned back to the show. Well, my friend, welcome back. It's going to be a great show. So
excited.
A couple things real quick. A happy Thanksgiving belated for anyone that celebrates Thanksgiving. I hope everyone ate a lot of turkey or, kind of stayed away from the mutton. Had a great feast and some lemon cakes and things of that nature. And if you did some shopping, maybe some Game of Thrones stuff. If you did buy anything Game of Thrones related for Black Friday, if you want to email us, behindtheironthrone@gmail.com, and let us know what you bought and if you got any good sales that you want to pass on to the rest of our Thronies, to our B-Tit friends, that would be awesome. Because next week we're going to be doing an episode where we're going to have a lot of gift ideas before Christmas that are Game of Thrones related. And I think that's going to be a real fun show. We try to do it every year. We didn't get to do it before Black Friday this year, but we're still going to try to squeeze it in before Christmas comes. Now, in this episode, we're going to be talking about Fire and Blood, and I'm going to be reading some reviews. We're not going to be doing... I don't think a spoiler is really needed here, because if you listen to the show, a lot of the stuff that was in the book, we talk about. And there was some stuff that we learned. There was some new stuff. There was a whole lot of information. But I'm getting a lot of mixed feelings from different people, different panelists, different people in the podcast. And when I look online to read some of the reviews, which I'm excited to share with you today, I figure we go around the circle here, get everyone's initial impressions, and then we're going to have at it. So, ladies first, let's start with the Mistress of Whispers. What were your thoughts on, leading up to the book? You were excited. and kind of take us through the whole thing. And then after you listen to the book, because I think you were the first one to finish the book out of our team, so that was really good. And how did you get it, Andrea?
I actually have not finished the book.
Oh, I thought you did. Or was that John that finished it?
John finished the book, and to be clear, I would have finished the book probably within the first 24 hours. But literally, I got the book at midnight on the dot, and my first task was to post the PDF to our group so that those who didn't get the audiobook or hadn't ordered their book yet or anything would have the opportunity to actually read it along with everyone else instead of being spoiled, which was a great idea. Shout out to With Fire Comes Blood. It's our page on Facebook. If you still haven't read the book and you're looking for a place to read it and even discuss it, send a request to join. We'd love to have you there. Tons of questions and great conversations so far. We have a great community. So and that one's specific to Fire and Blood. I mean, there is a little bit of crossover conversation because it's kind of hard for there not to be crossover conversation. But I haven't finished the book yet. It took me almost 10 hours from the time I got it posted. I mean, from the time that I got the book to finally get the PDF to download. And it was because I had another person in the group who was actually able to send me their copy. Apparently it didn't copy over the way that I wanted it to.
So you primarily read it.
Primarily, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm down to the very end of the Dance of Dragons, and what happens from here so far, I do know.
PDF, though, did you get the book or did you get the audiobook?
I don't have the physical copy in hand right now. So I have the audiobook, I have the PDF version, and I also have it through Apple iBooks.
Okay.
So I have it in multiple different versions. So I have all the pictures and everything like that, but I haven't finished the book, although I do know how it ends. So what I will say is I'm not disappointed. And I know there are a lot of people who are expecting it to read like a Game of Thrones does, but when you're not actually reading a firsthand rendition, you're actually reading a telling of a history of a people. You have to expect that it's not going to be based on firsthand, POVs, not like a Game of Thrones is going to be. What I did find is that it was actually more welcoming to me than A World of Ice and Fire was. A World of Ice and Fire is a table book, and it is a very droll read overall. You kind of have to be in the situation to research something specifically in order to go through there and, know specifics about a specific time frame or a people or anything like that. With the Fire and Blood novels, it was a cohesive read. You started where Aegon the Conqueror started and you ended midway through, and there was a ton of information. So for me, it was like all of the ingredients that go into making something amazing. That's what I got instead of the amazing the pie, for example,
right,
which is A Song of Ice and Fire. I got to taste individually every single ingredient that went into it. You know what I mean? So it was a different kind of satisfaction for me, and it's continuing to be a different kind of satisfaction. I can't tell you how many bookmarks I have in my audiobook alone from the first 2 downloads, even going into the third. I mean, there's no disappointment in it for me, but I think that you have to be a true fan or at least have some information on what you're reading before you step into it. Otherwise, you're just going to be completely lost and have no idea why it's so important to everybody else because you don't know where it all began in the first place.
This was definitely a book for you. When I started listening, and I'm not going to do my review just yet, but when I started listening, I thought, yep, this is a book for Andrea. Definitely for sure. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. And did you learn so far? Have you learned anything new that you didn't know before?
Well, the biggest thing for me was dates. With Song of Ice and Fire, dates, the actual nailing down of a specific date is such a rare occurrence that there were multiple times reading the book that I was actually able to go through there and read a bunch of different dates that I otherwise wouldn't have had. I'm going to just want to give you an example really quick.
Yeah, in the meantime, I'm going to read real quick. We have a couple of comments. Big E says, Jahari's chapters are the best so far, and Fire and Blood is not for the casual fan of Game of Thrones. And welcome, Mag. Welcome to the live show.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome.
You had an example you were going to give us?
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up right now.
Okay.
So this is my timeline.
I see.
I basically, it was like a timeline I just picked up while going through the books. So Jaehaerys was actually born in the 9th month on the 20th day of 34 AC, confirmed.
Wow, so that's it's very specific.
Yeah, exactly. Month, day, and year. Let's see here. The end of the regency was confirmed at 9/20/50 AC. Queen Alisane's death was the 1st of would be our July, so 7/1/100 AC. I was able to go back because for those of you who haven't read the World Book, there is the whole entire line of House Targaryen in the World Book from the time of Aegon the Conqueror up until the fall of Aerys, the Mad King. You can see it. It's all listed in here. There's no question of who's what and where. I mean, there are some new blanks that have been filled in the Fire and Blood novels. But if you come over here to House Stark, it's got hardly anything in there. And it doesn't even have Torrhen Stark, the king who knelt, listed in there, which I thought was interesting because Maesters had been in the north at this point.
Right.
So why were we missing so many different, lords of House Stark, of Winterfell in the timeline? So I was actually able to go back through and I deduced that Torrhen Stark's son Brandon succeeded him. His son Walton succeeded him. His Walton's brother Alaric succeeded him. Alaric's grandson Edric succeeded him. Edric's son Ellard, and then Ellard's son Benjen, and then Benjen's son Rickon, all were the lords of Winterfell. Rickon actually was serving as regent until Cregan came into his majority in 124 AC. But he wanted to stay on. He didn't actually even want to give Cregan the lordship of Winterfell until Cregan displaced him in 126, finally taking over on his own. So it was really interesting, like being able to fill in this time slots. Just there's so much information. House Hightower actually is in possession of a dragon egg. Who would have fucking known that? And then obviously finding out where Daenerys' dragon eggs came from. Information on Valyria and Balerion the Black Dread. I mean, there was just so much in here for me. It was just like popping a piece of candy and getting a new flavor every single time. It was like,
this is your candy land right here.
Exactly. I was just like, give me more. Make this. Here goes another one. I mean, like the file that I have, the working file that I have is like, it's crazy that, all the things that I, just kind of picked up as far as details go. And I find that not everything is detailed as far as timelines, like by month, day, and year. So I have a feeling that these month, days, years are all going to come into play later on because they were actually mentioned. It's not even done like that in A Song of Ice and Fire. You actually have to count the moons. And so hopefully I can count these moons and I can make them work for me. And so speaking of moons, we're getting ready to start A Feast with Dragons, which is the abridged version of A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons in the book page, in the book group. And that's a 30-week process starting today.
Wow.
But I'm planning on counting the moons there too. And I think that I can prove that it was almost 301 AC by the time Jon Snow was stabbed.
I give you a lot of credit for what you do. I do not have the patience. I can stand in front of a crowd and act like an idiot, and I can host a podcast. I can make a podcast, but I cannot do what you do. I just can't do it. It's amazing.
It's an obsession.
Absolutely an obsession. My obsession is podcasting. And I know I haven't talked about this in a while, but I'm going to do a quick commercial here, and we'll get right back to the content. I am going out and I've been working on a podcast educational website. Anyone that's ever thought about podcasting will want to check this out. It's called YesYouCanPodcast.com. And my goal there is to teach people how to podcast on a low budget, medium budget, high budget, with whatever equipment you can get to try to help you share your passion with the world, just like Andre was able to share the passion here. And I think it's important today. We have so much technology, and we have the ability to have amazing audiences and communities. So why not share that passion? YesYouCanPodcast.com. And right now, it's just a sign-up page just to kind of show that you're interested. If you are, go ahead, sign up, let us know, leave a little message, and we'll let you know when everything's up and running. It's been a lot of work. It's a lot of video hours, trying to think of everything to teach somebody. But I just want to let people know that's what I've been working on. When I'm not here on the podcast, I'm either doing video or I'm working on how to teach people how to podcast. Now, John, I think it's time to talk about your passion here. How did you get the book? Do you have a hard copy, an audio copy? What were you thinking going into it, and did it change afterwards? So just lay it on me, buddy.
This is my first audiobook.
Oh, you got an audiobook?
Yes, I got the audiobook so I can listen to it.
On Audible or?
Yes, Audible. So
nice.
Guys, audible.com.
We have a link.
Use our code. We have a link.
You get 2 free books.
Us help you. And I got it for free. So I got it for free.
Did you get your 2 books?
Just the one. I don't know if I was able to get. I don't know.
Yeah, when you use the link, you should get 2 codes or two credits. One for so you can have 2 different books. So go back and check your account later and see if you got 2 because you're supposed to get 2.
So, I mean, I loved it. I learned a lot. I was kind of disappointed that it ended so short. I was like, that's it? Because I listened to it right through at 8 hours a day at work. And I remember when it ended, I'm just like, wow, that's it? There's I want more. I got so excited. I thought it was going to go deep into the Mad King.
I thought it was going to get there too. Me
too. And I was like, okay, it ended. I heard there's a part 2 coming out. So at least then we'll begin that. I was really excited. I learned a lot of stuff. I learned a lot. There's some new houses I learned, like House Valerian and another house I can't pronounce the name with. Help me out here, Andrea. We were talking about earlier.
House Celtigar of Claw Isle.
Yes.
House Celtigar actually is mentioned in A Storm of Swords as well by Davos Seaworth, and they're talking about the Valyrian steel axe that's inside of his treasury. Ooh. So I always find that very interesting because it always reminds me of Lord Commander Mormont and the fact that he gave Jon Snow a sword that was a lie.
So I learned about that. I love the Jacaerys chapters. I thought that was very interesting. His daughter Jaehaerys.
So it's important that you know the difference, though, because there are 2. One is Jacaerys, the other one is Jaehaerys.
So this one,
Jaehaerys is the Mad King. Jacaerys is Jacaerys Valerion, who is Rhaenyra's son.
Big E just said, I get my books the old way, just like First Men, hard copies.
I like it.
It's awesome.
I am going to get myself a hard copy. They sell it at my store.
That's going to look awesome. If you get a hard copy, you can put it right next to a World of Ice and Fire. But, I mean, I don't know about you, John, but I like the audiobooks because I don't have time to sit and read anymore. I'm just sort of busy.
And I'm working 8 hours a day, and I listen to it while working, and I just got so enthralled into it. Like Sarah Targaryen. She's a wild child there.
How are you guys remembering these names? I cannot remember anything.
What's interesting to me, and everyone is obsessing with Sarah, but I assume it's because she has tits. The reason why she doesn't surprise me that much is because every single Targaryen who's given birth to a child that has more than one child, one version of them is Maegor Targaryen. One version of them is Maegor.
Yeah, I saw that pattern.
And Sarah is Maegor, just like Daemon was Maegor. I mean, every single one of them has a Maegorish trait to it. So it doesn't surprise me that Sarah, who she was, is who she was. She never made any excuses, and she was always honest about it. Her father was just terrible at handling her. So it doesn't really surprise me with Sarah. She's Maegor. She's Maegor with tits. That's it.
I love the going back to Jaehaerys. I loved, how Roger Baratheon tried to take the throne and give it to one of his sisters, I think. And what I like about that is I think he always wanted to try to take the throne. And this is all because Jaehaerys wanted to marry his sister, and everyone's against it again. And he tried to stop it, and then he tried to take the throne and give it to his sister, and ended up being he ended up having to I think, did he kill himself? I can't remember, but he ended up being defeated. I think he just won because he married his mother. He married his mother, which was he didn't ask for permission, just married his mother.
Oh, or
Roger Baratheon.
Roger Baratheon.
Yeah, Roger married Alyssa.
He didn't want the throne. He didn't want the throne. He just wanted the power. He wanted to be the second most powerful family in the Seven Kingdoms.
I just think
he didn't want the throne.
I don't know. I thought he wanted the throne. Because he married his mother, which would have gave it his legitimate, thing to be a king. But I like that storyline. I love the whole Dance of Dragons. I was always a big fan. We did a podcast on Dance of Dragons.
I
I
feel
really
like
loved they went in depth with that.
I feel like it was not quite the way I imagined it. Maybe because I have a crazy sense of well, finish and I'll go do mine because I was a little disappointed with that.
I
With
like
the dance.
The Dance of Dragons.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just wanted to clarify the
right.
context of the conversation.
Yes,
I love Cregan. I love the Cregan Stark. I love when they mention him.
No
There's
shit.
a great line where
look at the
hat. Come on.
Look at what's behind you in video. It's a big banner of the House Stark. Of course you like that.
Yeah, of course.
I don't want to butcher the quote, but he walks into the room like this is during the he comes near the end with his host and he's like he walks in and he's all like even though he's younger than other people, he acts like he's much older than everyone just the way he acts because he's northern. So I kind of like that how he put everything in
the Hour of the Wolf
or the wolf stuff. I found it interesting that Manderly actually served as hand to the king. He was hand to the king for Aegon the Third. I think was he also Lord Protector? I can't remember if he was Lord Protector or not.
Who? Cregan Stark?
No, Manderly was actually in the council with Aegon the Third.
Oh, you mean the regents?
Yeah, like he was he hand to the king and or was he just the regent?
Were you talking about the end of the this is towards the end?
Near the end. Yeah.
I thought that he was the Lord Protector.
I thought he was hand to the king.
But when he became when he became of age, the king I can't think.
Aegon the Younger.
Yeah, the really the quiet. Are you talking about the one that was quiet and depressed all the time because he thought he lost his brother? Well, when he came of age, he said everyone get the fuck out. He said get out of my way, get out, everyone get out, and then he repicked everybody.
I just found it interesting that a Northman was able to like Cregan Stark lasted just for a little bit, but I was surprised
24 hours.
A Northman was able to be. I know, because North are not supposed
awesome.
to. It's not their thing, right? But
yeah.
Manderly was able to be, a regent or hand to the king for quite a while. He had great success down there, so I found that pretty interesting.
The Manderleys are originally from the South, though they're not necessarily Northmen, and they were always. Followers of the Seven, which I actually find really interesting because in A Dance with Dragons, we're kind of led to believe that they worship the old gods because they, have the godswood and whatnot that they were sacrificing people to. But I take it to mean that even though they're not Northmen, their people are still Northmen, and they still follow the belief of the Seven. So of course they would be more successful down, in the southern part of the kingdoms than like House Stark would.
And the Aegon, the Conqueror stuff. I like it. I love Faze to go through his grandfather on Dragonstone. I thought that was awesome too. Overall, I liked it. Learned a lot of stuff.
So you guys seem to like this book, both of you, very much. And for me, I have a different relationship with this book. So when I first started listening to it, now keep in mind I listened to it on Audible, and I'll give you some stats here real quick. Of course, we know it was written by George R.R. Martin, and it was narrated by Simon Vance.
Can I just stop you right there for something? Was there two narrators?
No.
Because it sounded like there was two. Okay, sorry for interrupting.
No, Simon Vance, he just changed his voice with the women.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Simon Vance did a pretty good job.
I liked it.
Not Roy Dotrice. I don't think he was as good as Roy Dotrice. But he did a very good job. And this was kind of not he did a good job for spewing data at me, for spewing history and information. But it got boring. Like, I'm listening to after I got through Aegon's Conquest, I started getting bored. And I listened to this book every day, not quite as religiously as John did, but like in between exercising and at work and my day job and, doing videos. And I just felt like every time I was listening to it, my mind would wander. Like when I listened to A Song of Ice and Fire, when I listened to The Wheel of Time, when I listened to Dunk and Egg, I was enthralled. Like if I was getting distracted by doing a job, like say I was cutting the grass and I stopped and said, hey, wait a second, I missed that part. I rewound it. With this book, I missed long-ass stretches and I had no desire to rewind. I felt like it was just a history lesson with no, like, give you an example. When I first heard about this book, I thought, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. I was looking for a story, a, perspective, and I didn't get that. We got a history, which is fine. It's just I was a little bit thrown off by that. So once I got my shit together and I realized what I actually was listening to, I tried to get my head around that. And, it's a history lesson, and there's some interesting little stories and little things in there. What kind of made it better was when we were listening, when they were talking about maybe Mushroom.
I loved him.
Yeah, me too. So
the question is, I have questions about Mushroom, but go for it.
It was hard for me to stay focused on the book, and I kept wandering, and I felt like, oh my God, I'm back in history in high school. Now, the audio version is 26 hours and 24 minutes, and keep in mind, I listened to this book at about 1.2 speed.
Me too.
I listen to all books that way, and I'm usually really good at keeping my head in the game. Like I said, I listen to Wheel of Time, Song of Ice and Fire, all the books, Game of Thrones, the whole 9 yards. And I can pretty much pick up. And if I miss something, I just rewind it and I listen to it again. But this I was kind of, when it was over, I was like, wow, thank God. I was a little bit bored. And I felt like it was a history of Ice and Fire. No, that's a World of Ice and Fire, rehashed just with Targaryen. And, a little bit more information put in there. And I'm going to read some of the reviews after a while here, but at least from Audible, and go through that. But it seems here that Robert says, my mind always wanders when I try an audiobook. I only ever got through The Martian. So I guess it depends on the book and the narrator. And I don't know, it's hard because I was so used to Roy Dotrice reading. But this guy, Simon Vance, did a great job. And it actually got me excited to listen to, what is that? Not The Vampire Diaries. There's another book series that he did, Interview with a Vampire. So I'm actually interested. I put it in my wish list on my audio account. When I get some more points, I'm going to get it because he's the narrator for that. And Andrea,
Simon Vance.
Yeah, and you pointed that out to me, Andrea. Thank you for that. So that got me excited because I want to give him a chance to read to me with multiple perspectives, and see how he does there. But I don't want to say it was Simon that made me bored. I think it was the content that kind of got me bored. Now, some of it was very exciting. When we started getting into A Dance of Dragons, I was really pumped. Oh, man, I can't wait to listen to this. And the way it was described not as like, I don't know if anyone has ever had a really awesome history teacher where they describe the battle and you feel like you're there in
Mr.
the battle.
Popek.
Right. Yeah, so this felt like someone was just kind of spewing data at me. And I don't know, it wasn't what I was expecting. And Andre, you wanted to say something about Mushroom?
Well, I think it's really interesting with Mushroom because I think that a lot of the stuff that he says is dismissed easily because it's, torrid and it's, really offensive. But I think that in times like that, maesters always choose the prettier path. So you have to think, how much of this was actually honestly true? Now, there are other things that are obviously not true, like Mushroom is your king, bow down, you shits, because my member is twice as big as yours. I mean, he's hilarious. I mean, legitimately hilarious. But I think that he speaks in metaphor, and I think that he speaks in truths, and I think that it's absolutely 100% possible that most of the things that he reported were 100% true because everyone thought that he was an idiot because he had a huge head and he freaking was stunted. And so they did let loose their tongues in, areas that they wouldn't otherwise, let loose with somebody who was like a Tywin Lannister personality. You know what I mean? He's a fool, so no one fucking cares. But with Mushroom, and it also seems to me that Mushroom was very, very partial to Rhaenyra. He actually, he served her well. You can tell he adored her. But I want to say, I know what you're saying, Chris, when you say you were listening to it and you were getting what they were saying, but then by the time you realized what was going on, you didn't want to go back, right? I found that I was missing a lot like that too. The idea of having to go back versus having a book in my hand. So what I did is I listened to the audiobook at 1.25 speed. And I also opened up the iBook and I read along with it at the same time. And as I was reading along with it at the same time, I was finding spots where I wanted to pause the audiobook so I could go back and get an actual idea of what I was looking at or what I was reading. And then I would push play again and listen to some more. I found that helped me a lot because That's the reason why page turners are page turners. We like to turn pages specifically so we feel like we have control over the information that we're absorbing. And with an audiobook, it's having to rewind it the right amount of seconds in order to get back right where you want it to go. That becomes tedious and you don't want to go through all that. You know what I mean? So I read along with it as I was reading, as I was listening. And I think that's another reason why I haven't finished it all the way.
I still think I'm a little disappointed that it wasn't a story that I was looking like George's writing style in the Targaryen fashion. Like, I would have been really happy if it would have been Aegon's conquest from his perspective and his three sister wives. I think that would have been amazing. Now, the other thing that, a couple different things. So the other, like, I don't remember the characters' names. Like, some of them kind of escaped my mind, or the time escaped my mind. And like I said, there was a lot of good information in this book. I definitely don't want to discredit that. And I think that, I've only written one book in my life that wasn't even close to what George does. So I understand how difficult it is to a point. But I am disappointed that he didn't spend the time writing Winds of Winter instead of writing this.
So, and I have a response to that too. Mm-hmm. For everyone who was more concerned with the fact that he wrote Fire and Blood and he didn't write Winds of Winter, he didn't actually write Fire and Blood as a separate form of a book. He's literally a gardener. And so every single time he went in and he wrote anything on Aegon the Conqueror, there had to be some sort of history that followed from that. He had to build substance for his characters as he was writing and weeded them out. So this history that we're getting is pre-written. It's already there. He just has to go through it and figure out what parts are worth publishing and what parts aren't.
So filled in the blanks, so to speak.
Exactly. So these are histories that he's been writing along with his characters. Jon Snow has his own like sub-history, I'm sure. You know what I mean? And
where's
it's
that
all
book?
Going to work.
I'm ready for that book.
That's because they can't be letting us know all the stuff.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So, I mean, in my opinion, that's really what's going on. So try not to be too frustrated with George R. R. Martin. He has a plan. He is not, neglecting Winds of Winter. He's just, giving us, I already have all this stuff written, so let me give you this to chew on for a little bit longer while I take my time making Winds of Winter perfect for you. It's, that little breadcrumb that we've been waiting for. Not an excerpt, but a 780-page book.
George even said that as he's trying to write the book, I was watching an interview, he says that it's harder for him now because of all the expectation after what HBO did with the television show, that he takes that into account as he's writing because... they did an amazing job with his story. So I can understand that it's very difficult. And I don't want to say that Fire and Blood is a bad book.
No.
But if you're going into this thinking it is a like a perspective story,
it's not a POV book.
Yeah, it's history.
No, it's a maester who's telling you about the recorded history of the Targaryen king since conquest, and even a little bit more about Aenar the Exile and Game.
This is your book, Andrea. This is your book.
It's definitely my book. It's absolutely. I mean, there was not one thing about this book that's been disappointing to me. Aside from like what John's saying, he was a little shocked that it was over so fast. And then I had to tell him, well, that's why there's going to be a volume 2. And he goes, oh, it makes so much sense now. So we're not going to get volume 2 right away, obviously, because that's more information. But this is kind of like, it's kind of like the hors d'oeuvre before the meal. You know what I mean? We're getting Winds of Winter next. It's a guarantee. We're going to get Fire and Blood too. Maybe. Okay. So that's really interesting. And I just want to cover this really quick. I did do a live, the other day from my page. I did the interview that he did, with, who am I? The one that he just did, the other day, whatchamacallit, Facebook.
Now you posted it. I can't remember.
I don't remember who it was with.
I posted it in our page.
For some reason, my mind is blank.
Colbert, Stephen Colbert.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I posted that. And so he said to him, so what happens after this? He goes, Winds of Winter. He goes, then Fire and Blood Part 2. And he goes, yeah, maybe a Dream of Spring. And then he goes, or Duncan Egg novel, but he threw Dream of Spring right in there. Like he knew that needed to be done and it needs to be done fast. So I find that really hopeful, but he does have most of the material for Fire and Blood Volume 2. He hasn't written all of the material for Fire and Blood Volume 2. So I think that he has more information that he needs to work through, but what he released in Fire and Blood Volume 1, I think, is going to play a huge part in Winds of Winter as far as backstory. So try to keep that in mind too,
So let me read a couple of reviews here from the Audible fans. Now, there's 489 reviews. I'm not reading them all.
Wow.
And it's 4 out of 5 stars. So the overall is pretty good. And
I would agree with that.
I would agree with that also. My disappointment is because I didn't read what I was getting. I just saw, ooh, dragons, I can't wait, So that's kind of my own stupidity. So it is what it is. Let's see. So we have a very good review here. It's 150 years of Westeros history, and it gets a lot of good stars. The next one is 26 hours of lore, gore, and glory. Another good one. For some reason, they didn't like the performance. I'm starting to feel like an easy mark. The story got 1 star. Now, with Audible, they give you an overall, a performance rating, and a story rating. So you get 3 different ways to rate it. And if you're interested in being able to review or listen to these audiobooks on Audible, just use our Audible link in the description of this video or the podcast. You get 2 books, and if you don't keep it, no problem. You keep the book that you chose, and you can actually use that credit for this book. And you're welcome. And it also helps to support the show, so thank you. See, it's everyone helps each other. This guy says, not what I expected. Very bad. We got overall of 2 stars, a performance of 4, and a story of 2. There's a lot of different. There's a lot of mixed reviews here. We have disappointing. First time a book in the series left me wondering why I spent the money and time on it, hoping it serves some larger purpose in the storyline. If you're not into the books and you're just a show watcher, this may be difficult for you to read.
Yeah.
It's probably part of that. It's a terrible. This next person says terrible. Disappointment, refund. Horrible, please exchange. Very, 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 let down. Hurry, give me my credit back. And the English is written terribly, so that's what it says. Meh. And that's kind of how I felt after I read it. I'm going to have to go back and read it and listen to it. I'm going to go back and re-listen to it because like I was telling you guys, there's a lot of stuff I missed. I feel like paying to read this book is like George Lucas saying he had a whole trilogy plan before and after Star Wars, Empire, and Return of the Jedi. But when I paid to see the prequel about Darth Vader, what I got was a guy sitting on a stool on the screen who narrates the plot of the story, devoid of any actual suspense or emotion. This isn't so much a story as notes or backstory necessary for robust feature presentation. It goes on and on. That's kind of funny. This guy says...
out of curiosity, Chris, I'm able to share my iBook with you, right?
I don't know.
I think that I've never shared one with you before, so I should be able to share one with you now,
sure.
Right?
Share away.
So then I should be able to share you my iBook, and so when you go back and re-listen, you can read along with it too.
Well, the other nice thing about that is I can highlight in there.
Yes.
And highlight some of the important details that I missed. Like one of the parts of the book that really I thought was really awesome that got me excited again was when the girl who stole Balerion the Dread and they think that. Yeah, and they think that she ended up in Old Valeria.
In Valeria.
In Valeria, and then she came back and she had worms and shit coming out of her or whatever.
Fireworms.
Yeah. Now, how cool was that? It got me thinking. Like there is a whole area here that's not been explored.
So
just
we're
awesome.
Exploring it. For the record, we are exploring it, and when with Fire Comes Blood, we've been talking about it at length. We've linked it to one occurrence already in a Dance of Dragons, with Victarion's hand, and the Dusky Woman, and Makoro. So it's almost the exact same thing. There was also another mention of when. What's his face from the old the High Tower landed in Sithorios. They were drinking out of a river that was infested with parasites, and they were talking about how what the reactions to these parasites were: boils and fevers and little worms and things like that. And it was almost the exact same description as what was going on with Arya. But what I found most interesting about Arya Targaryen is that she's actually Rhaella Targaryen in a Parent Trap. That was hilarious to me. And she was the Maegor of her line.
Interesting.
Trin is here in the chat.
Trin,
yay!
Hi.
Trin. She says, "Hi guys, I miss the B-Tit family so much. I'm halfway through Blood and Fire. I was very interested in the Golden Wedding. And Biggie says The Real Housewives of King's Landing. Now, I'm just going to read a couple more of these, and then we'll move forward. This guy says a history. Listeners beware. This is a history. There's no story here. Just lots of names, lots of years, and lots of regret. Absolutely crap. This is done like a history book, not a story. Finish the series, George. We don't need extras. We need you to write the next book. Rip off. Boring. No story, just a history book. Boring, boring, boring. George R. R. Martin does it again. This is a good one. So we got full stars across the board. Here's one, not what I expected. It got bad reviews. There's a lot of mixed reviews, but I think this guy say it's a monologue. Right out of a world of ice and fire. Painfully boring, very enjoyable. So there's a lot of mixture here.
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of reader that you are, or the type of fan, for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and also, you have to look at it, and this is the mistake that I made. I didn't look at it initially for what it was, because I didn't read the description. I just said, ooh, George R. R. Martin, Game of Thrones. I'm buying this shit. And I bought it. Now, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. And I'm going to go back and listen to it again as soon as I get some freed up time. It's just it wasn't what I was expecting. I mean, I still would give it 4 swords out of 5. Go ahead, John.
I think the reason why I was able to get through it and not doze off like you did or something is because I'm used to history This is like, to me, this is like a history podcast. I'm used to history podcast. Like, I listen, and this is exactly what a history podcast is. It's just someone telling you the history, and I think that's why I was able to get through it and listen to it really well. So that's what I think people have to realize. It's not a story like it is with, like, I never listened to the Game of Thrones, the audiobooks. I will one day, hopefully, but I wasn't I thought I was expecting a story too, like you, Chris. I was like, this could be a story. I'm going to get like people saying stuff, and it was just one history thing. And I understood I'm used to this because I listened to a bunch of history podcasts. So I get that side of it.
Well,
yeah. Really quick, I just wanted to say to Trin, you said that you're halfway through Blood and Fire, and I just want to say that it seems that there are 2 different meanings for Blood and Fire and Blood. Apparently, fire and blood is what happens when the Targaryens wreak havoc on you. Blood and fire is what happens when you're a Targaryen and you're getting freaking havoc wreaked on you. Or not, no, it's when you're being ended by them. So it has 2 different meanings, which I thought were pretty interesting. And then also the Golden Wedding was a huge deal. I agree. And yes, I think that the idea of the book not being what everyone thought it was going to be comes from the idea that they didn't understand that it was just a history of the Targaryens from the very first until the very till 150 years, halfway through. So, I mean, anyone going in there thinking that, you're going to get Aegon the Conqueror's POVs, and then we're going to move to Aenys and everybody else, I can understand why that would be confusing for you and why it would become a disappointment. But for people who actually did know when they were going in to buy the book that this was a history of the Targaryen kings versus a POV, a direct point of view from these Targaryen kings and queens, it was everything that we thought it was going to be, and sometimes even more. And in my case, it was more and continue to be more. I can totally see why it was really hard. History of Westeros was doing some Q&A yesterday, and I was getting the notifications, and they were saying that they think that for those of you who haven't read A World of Ice and Fire, before you read A Fire and Blood, you should read The World of Ice and Fire. But again, it's a table book, and so that can be a really drawl read as well. So have a purpose when you get ready to go into that book, and you'll find that it's easier to finish. But if you're just trying to start at page 1 and move to the very last page, you're going to find that you're going to be reading on 10 million different subjects, and you're going to forget half of them before you're done. But if you go in there with a direct purpose, you can definitely get a better idea of what's going on. I am still being surprised by the amount of information that's in this book.
A lot of information.
The hammer, when the Howard strikes down the dragon, Hugh the Hammer's prophecy that he obviously couldn't read, was really interesting to me, because everyone's like, does this mean that there's a prophecy Where does House Baratheon come from? I'm thinking that Hugh the Hammer might also be descended from the same line that Orys Baratheon may have been descended from, which is how the relation comes into mind, because the hammer actually wasn't a Baratheon. It's not a Baratheon tool used necessarily, I should suppose. It's not like specific to House Baratheon. Not every single Baratheon used a hammer. So the fact that Robert Baratheon chose one and now Gendry Baratheon is choosing one is really interesting to me. I don't know. I just can't see myself being disappointed in the overall story. It's got a lot of information. Of course, you have to ask yourself, of course, we're hearing this from the lips of a Septon. How much of this is actually true and how much of this is biased? What I loved about this Septon is that, not Septon, Maester, is that he gave us multiple different perspectives from different from different maesters who had written about it, you know, Barth and Eustace and you know, some of the other ones. I mean, he's getting different perspectives and being like, well, we can dismiss this because, you know, it seems way too far to believe. It was early Baratheons. Some of them used axes, you're right, Trin, but that's
Did you
that's
read
the God's grief.
Did you read the other comments that she had?
She said, I feel like the history is a great story. The Targaryens were the kind of the centerpieces for A Song of Ice and Fire. And that's true. I mean, There's so much in it, especially with the idea that there could be Targaryen influence in the North prior to Jon Snow. I mean, that's really huge. Let's see here. She loves the YouTube format, by the way. And the Targaryens are the reason why we have A Song of Ice and Fire is very true. And she asked if the early Baratheons used axes, and I think that they did. There is a few that were mentioned in there, but it's not. It doesn't. There's nothing that definitively says that it was their weapon of choice specifically. The Night Fort was a house of horrors. Yeah, I'm really interested in this thing with Alysanne. Going back really quick, one of the things that I picked up on was the Lord's right to the first night. Right?
Oh yeah, that was interesting as well. Talking about that in the book.
Her women's courts were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that was cool.
And what's interesting is that it wasn't until she went to the women in Molestown that she actually started hearing the real horrors of the first night, when she actually made a huge deal about it.
That she
and
did
then
that.
They shut down the Night Fort, and then they erected a gate in her honor, and she ceded them land, and they were happy to do it, which is really interesting to me. And Jaehaerys was kind of, you know, pushing her to let it go, right, the whole entire time. This isn't really our place. We shouldn't, you know, be forcing these things on these lords, you know, for all the reasons that he tried to make weak of it. She, you know, pressed on, and finally, he ceded to her. Then to turn around and find out that House Targaryen was one of the number one houses south of the Neck to actually take part in this rite. They found all those dragon seeds on Dragonstone because of the Lord's right to first night that was practiced on Dragonstone. It's crazy. Orys Baratheon was possibly a product of that. You know what I mean? So I just really was like, wow, why did Jaehaerys actually not really want to push that? Is it because he knew that House Targaryen were actually going to be some hypocrites if he fucking did push the issue?
Was some of the seeds... Was Nettles one of the seeds, or is that just a
Nettles? Well, they say that she was a seed because she was able to bond to Sheepstealer, but then others say it was because she basically, you know, tricked him through food. But I mean, there was plenty of people that were working in the dragon pits that never were able to claim a dragon, and they were in charge of feeding the dragons every day.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Because we always talked about who could ride a dragon. Does it have to be a Targaryen? And when we were going through that section, and you know, they were saying, "Hey, gold dragon and a knighthood or whatever for anyone that can ride a dragon," when they were having these battles, I thought, "Wow, this is really interesting." I guess, you know, it's not only a Targaryen that could ride.
It could have been that Nettle's blood was really weak, and that's why she had to, you know, butter it up with food first. But it doesn't seem like, well, I mean, Sheep Stealer was really aggressive, so I mean, it's possible. I think that it's more likely that she was a dragon seed than she wasn't a dragon seed. I mean, considering how many people got ripped up and burned and whatnot trying to mount them.
That was one of my favorite characters in the story. I was like, yeah, get away. Don't get killed. You have to escape.
Nettles? So Nettles is actually supposed to be the girl and the dragon who settled in the Vale in the mountains.
She hooked up with
Daemon Targaryen.
Daemon, yeah.
Also,
I love Daemon. I love Daemon Targaryen. He is a badass, man. I love him. Like when the way he kills Aemon, was it Aemon, right?
Yeah, Aemon One Eye.
Aemon, when he just like
Aemon was a Maegor.
When Daemon just leaps in the air and just it's like that is the craziest way to kill a guy and to kill yourself at the same time.
That was a good part of the book.
But there's no guarantee that Daemon's dead. That's the craziest thing.
Well, yeah. Well, they also said what's his name wasn't dead too. One of the boys, one of Rhaenyra's sons, that he was just like, I can't remember his name now, but it's one of the.
You're thinking about Lucerys.
Yeah, the first one that dies that goes to the Vale to try to get the Aarons on their side, and
that's Joffrey.
Aemon's waiting there, and then he kind of falls. I think he Aemon. They have a battle, and Aemon and his dragon battles.
So you're confusing two things. So Aemon One Eye went to Storm's End, and Lucerys went too.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's what happened. So Lucerys, this was over Storm's End, and then Joffrey went to the Vale after Jacaerys sent him there. So Joffrey did go to the Vale, but then Joffrey, he died trying to avenge his brother at the Dragon Pit. That's what he did. He took off. He tried to mount Syraxis, and he plummeted to her death when she threw him from her back.
I'd like to see a video or a movie or a show about this kind of stuff. This is cool.
Because they said one person.
It's a lot of information to keep up with.
But the way we're talking about it, I find more enjoyable than being read to. In other words, before we go on, I just want to mention that in the YouTube, which is a really cool feature that we have, we can put in a vote. We have a vote system in here. So I have a poll, and if you're on a smart device, you're on a computer, you have to tap the screen, and you're going to get a circle and an eye icon either up on the upper right hand. But you do have to tap the screen or move your cursor around towards that section, and a round circle is going to come up with an eye. If you tap on that, you're going to get a poll. And the poll is, did you enjoy Fire and Blood? So if everyone wants to participate in the poll, I would be really appreciative. And I'm excited to see, and I'm experimenting with these polls. I think it's fun to help get everyone to be more part of the show.
I don't have, did you enjoy Fire and Blood? I have, do you prefer YouTube Live or Facebook Live? Or did you enjoy the new 2018 Game of Thrones promo?
Well, I just updated it. It should have taken hold. Why didn't take hold? Because the other one should be gone. Save.
Huh.
There should only be one. There should only be one question, one poll. The other one I got rid of. The other thing is, every time I hear Joffrey's name,
yeah, you think of Joffrey.
I hate the name, and I want to strangle somebody.
Right. So who's the kid? Because one kid falls into the water, and he gets washed up, and they say he either died or he lost his memory, and now he's just like a fisherman.
They say it's Lucerys.
That's the one I was talking.
Oh, okay.
Lucerys. Okay. And that's Rhaenyra's kid, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
it's her middle child.
Daemon's a badass.
So, if I need you to clarify something for me, Andrea, and I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to be ignorant. So, when they say Joffrey Baratheon first of his name, are they talking about Joffrey Baratheon, not just the name Joffrey?
Okay. Well, because there's only been one Baratheon king. Any Baratheon that's going to be named that's not either Robert or Joffrey will be the first of his name.
Okay.
So he's the Joffrey of House Baratheon, first of his name.
So it has to be in the house also.
Yeah.
So
of the house.
If they did Aegon Baratheon, first of his name, then that would be okay. But if it were Robert Baratheon, it would be the second of his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So so the house name makes a difference as well, because
right.
I just hate,
just like Yeah, just like how there was already a Daenerys, for example, right?
Right.
She would have been the queen of the Seven Kingdoms. She would have married her brother, but she didn't end up living. Now, because we have a new Daenerys who's going to be queen of the Seven Kingdoms with any luck, she'll still be Daenerys the first of her name.
You know, you say that.
She would be the only. She'd be the only one crowned.
You say that with any luck, and I'm going back and rewatching Game of Thrones, getting just getting rehyped and energized because I've been kind of working on other stuff, and this is exciting again. So I'm on season 4, I believe.
Ooh, congratulations!
Breaker of Chains. I'm on the Breaker of Chains episode.
Watching it too.
And when I first watched Game of Thrones, and I know we're kind of diverting off Fire and Blood here for a second, but it's my show. I'll do what I want. And send your hate mail to
makes sense
somebody else. I'm rewatching the series, and I remember talking about Dany on previous podcasts, how I didn't like her, who the hell is she to get rid of slavery. And as I'm watching, I'm thinking, man, I was a prick. I like her character more after I watched season 7 than I did the first time I saw her when I watched, Breaker of Chains. So now I'm rewatching and I'm seeing things and I'm thinking, wow, she wasn't really that bad. And I don't know, my perspective about these characters has slightly changed. So
me too.
Really? You too? John, hold on. Are you telling me
there's one scene
that you are liking Jaime Lannister now?
No, I'm not liking Jaime Lannister. But there is one scene that I will say that I really am starting to like, and that's the sacking of Highgarden. Just because I love the choreograph, the marching and stuff. I kind of like that scene and how he's walking through the garden and they're playing the Reigns of Castamere and you're seeing the dead group of soldiers there and stuff. So I kind of like that. But I do have a more appreciation for Dany after from season 1 on. I love watching the first episode. I don't know why. It's just so. It's one of my favorite season 1s. Might be my favorite. Might be my favorite season.
Ned losing his head still makes me very angry.
Speaking of Ned losing his head, when you guys are ready, I'd like to talk about the takeover that Game of Thrones has been doing.
Okay. So him losing his head got me really aggravated. Even though he's a Stark, I still love Eddard Stark.
He's the best.
Yeah, he's okay. Now, the red wedding kills me every time.
Me too.
Like when Kat screams at the end and it just cuts to black, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe that this happened. Like,
yeah, Richard has so much to say about her. Richard Madden in that scene. Like, did you see his interview?
I didn't get I almost want to get the Blu-rays just to get all that extra content, John, you always talk about. But I could probably find it on YouTube as well. But that was incredibly psychotic and crazy. And I tell you, every show on TV has been ruined because of Game of Thrones. Has been ruined. And when I watched Joffrey's The Purple Wedding, I literally stood up and cheered, and my wife's looking at me, and she goes, "What the hell are you even watching? Like you've been sitting here watching this with me. You have no idea what this is." She's like, "All I see is some kid with shit coming out of his face," and I'm like, "Yeah, we want him dead. He's bad."
I miss Robb Stark. I keep watching when I watch it. I miss Robb Stark, and even going back to when Jaime's like, "I learned my mistakes from Robb Stark," and I'm like, it just goes to show you he was just a brilliant command. Like the Starks are just brilliant commanders. Like here's this 15-year-old boy who's, I mean, in the show he's probably older, but here's this boy who outsmarted on the battlefield Tywin and Jaime, and Jaime realizes that and tells Olenna that. I mean, I thought that's amazing. I miss Robb.
I miss Robb too, but him being honorable got him killed.
Yeah, this is true.
Well, not exactly, because he was dishonorable. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
because
Rob's penis got him killed because he's his father's son.
I had to rethink that. As soon as it left my mouth, I had to rethink that. So in the chat, it says the only good thing about the sacking of Highgarden is when Olenna drops the mic. Oh yeah, there's a T-shirt that I want to buy. It's a picture of Lady Olenna's face, right, and she's wearing sunglasses, and she says and it says "I did it," and I want to buy that. I just want to buy that.
Tell her the look on Jamie's face, man.
Yeah,
I like the look on Jamie's face.
Jacob Trent says yes, Chris. Jacob says the same thing. No show can compare to Game of Thrones. And Biggie says until Robb chooses love over duty. Yep. All right, back to the.
I wouldn't say there's no show that I don't want to get the head. There's a few shows that might compare to Game of Thrones.
Outlander.
Vikings and the Last Kingdom. Let's talk about another one I liked was Alaric Stark.
Alaric Stark, yeah, he's pretty cool. Really quick though, I did want to bring up. So did you notice that HBO is taking over the subways in New York and in LA? They took over a building in Sunset Boulevard.
I did not know that.
So let's see here. That's what I call indoor advertising. Game of Thrones on the poles in the Port Authority in downtown New York. And every pillar is a banner that's wrapped around it. Tyrion Lannister with the crossbow, Joffrey Baratheon choking at the at the purple wedding. There's like posters galore taking over the S train, the platform for the S train. The turnstiles all have posters on them. Even the little spinny bars that have like for the hashtag for the throne stickers attached to them. They've redone all the stairways going into the Port Authority. That's for the throne. They have one that's all Viserion taking out the wall. And in Times Square, they put Cersei doing her walk of shame. Let's see here. And then on the 9,000 block, going into Sunset Boulevard is Ned Stark having his head, being beheaded. It's like the whole entire building took it over. It's bomb.
Nice. So, John, you wanted to say something else about the book? We're going to be ending the show pretty soon.
Well, two things. I have this, and I'll pose a question. I like Alaric Stark. I like when Alicent goes to when she goes to the north, and like she really like at first he's like Alicent. He's like first Alaric's like I don't want you here, and then he ends up liking her or something like that. She goes to the wall. She like, I'm gonna already fix some castles for you. I'm gonna already do a lot of shit for you. So and she just does it. So I think she really liked the people from the wall, the Night's Watch.
She did. She really liked the Brothers of the Night's Watch. I think there's this misunderstanding when it comes to House Stark, how they're so grim and everything like that. But more than anything, they're just super duper loyal. And so what they expect in the return is loyalty as well. And so Alaric was, put off by the fact that Willard had lost his life, because Jaehaerys sent all of those freaking second sons. I mean, the sons of whatever the hell they were, the faith militant all to the wall. You know what I mean? He lost his brother when he should have handled his own traitors and, rebels better, I think, was the issue. But he was also, just a man who cared about his family and really wanted his family to be, taken care of and to see his heir survive. And, okay, well, we bent the knee to you guys. Now, what are you guys going to do to deserve that? Because House Stark had been taking care of their own for centuries, and they're basically still, taking care of their own at this point, with, House Targaryen not even really bothering with the North. What was the point of taking the North at this point? So it was really nice that Alicent showed up, but then also that Jaehaerys was actually able to come, because it showed that, okay, well, well, no, he didn't go until he was able to go.
Yeah.
He didn't go and leave. He never went until it was time, until he was able. See, I disagree. I don't think that Alaric is Stannis. I don't think that he's like him at all. I think that there is, a good example of a Stannis that we have in the situation. Rhaenyra, I think, was a lot like Stannis, in that it was hers by right, and she was willing to do whatever she wanted to, whatever she needed to do to take the throne. I think that Rhaenyra is a lot like Stannis in that aspect specifically, but I don't find that Alaric was a lot like Stannis. I think that he just got that reputation to be a lot like Stannis because of the fact that he was so, stern and solitary. But I don't know. I don't really quite feel it. I feel like Rhaenyra was really close to Stannis.
So let's wrap up the show here, and I want to get an actual sword rating from you guys on Fire and Blood. We'll start with you, Jonathan Stoma, Stark Lover. It's if anyone's not familiar with the podcast, we rate here with swords. It's Game of Thrones when swords are cool. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. How many swords, John, do you give Fire and Blood?
I'm going to give it 4 swords out of 5 swords. I really loved it. It reminded me of a history podcast. So I like that. I like that they mentioned kind of all the major houses was involved. There's Lannisters involved in this story. There's Aarons, Starks, Baratheons, Tyrells, not much Greyjoys, but those are the central houses that we know that were involved in the story. So I kind of like that too. I pose this question. I want to see it. Do you think they could do one on the Starks eventually?
I would like to see it, yeah.
And it also makes you think, like, it really is the Starks Lannisters are the two oldest houses after reading this. Like, they really are the two most noble and oldest houses in West, the major ones, at least, of Westeros.
I would love to see something like that. I mean, this time I'll be more prepared for a history book. But I do like story. Like, everything with me is storytelling. It's probably the reason why I like creating videos and podcasting. I like to tell a story through, the traditional storytelling means. But yeah, I could get behind that, Andrea.
I also want to see, a Lannister one wouldn't be bad too. Like,
are you shitting me? That should be first. That should have been first.
No, Stark should be first.
No way.
It's not.
If
Starks,
we're going to be
Starks
getting the history
Lannister.
of the Long Night, then I think that you can settle on a Lannister history book. Because we're not going to get the history of the Lannisters and how they become the Lords of the Rock before we get the Long Night from HBO.
We shit gold,
That's
John.
a fact.
You shit snowflakes.
What I will say, though, is that I give it 4 stars out of 5. And it's not because I found any fault in it whatsoever, but a 5-star is a POV book for me, versus a telling of a history that could have been altered and may not necessarily be true in some parts. And that's the thing about Fire and Blood, is you actually have to sit down and you have to decide which parts you find more credible versus the ones that you don't find as credible. And for me, we're not going to get that as long as Munkin's tales aren't completely, released, as long as Barth's tales aren't completely released, as long as we don't have a complete history via Mushroom.
Give me the history of Mushroom tales. I'll take that.
I would take Mushroom and Barth any day, any freaking day. So if we had Fire and Blood via the mouth of Barth, or portions of Fire and Blood via the mouth of Barth, or his unnatural histories, or any of those things, it would have been a 5 for me. But because we don't have that, and this is basically like somebody saying, well, this is what I read and this is what somebody else read, and that's what the final telling is, I can't give it a 5 swords based on that.
For me, it's 4 swords. Performance is good. I miss Roy Detrice. It's a shame that he passed on, but life happens.
How dare you, Roy? How dare you?
I know. How dare you die on us? Come on.
Silly.
Between, I don't know, we've lost so many awesome people in the last couple of years. I mean, Stan Lee. I mean, this just sucks.
I cried for Stan Lee.
I did too. I'm not gonna lie.
R.I.P.
So 4 swords out of 5. I was going to give it 3 until I realized that a lot of the reason I didn't like it was because of my own mental failing. I didn't read the description first. I didn't give it a fair shot. So I'm going to probably go back and re-listen to it once I finish the Wheel of Time, because that's what I'm kind of on right now. And I will I'll be able to look at it proper. So a lot of great information, and I'm going to have to get that shared book, Andrea, so I can actually highlight and take notes, because
when we're done, you'll just have to tell me how to send it to you. There
were just so many details that I missed. Like, I heard it, or if I zoned out, but I missed them. And with the audio version, it's hard to keep that stuff straight in your head. So I want to go back, and there are so many names. This book alone had to be 500 names. It was crazy. There was all kinds of names. So, and that makes it difficult for me to remember all that. So, a lot of great information. If you're looking for a story, you're going to be disappointed. If you're looking for great information on the world that we love, you'll be happy. That's my say. So now the show is over. I know everyone can cry. I'm very, very sorry. We're going to do another show. We're going to try to do one next week. We're going to do a show about gifts for the Game of Thrones fans. If you want to buy someone a gift for Hanukkah or for Christmas, we're going to be doing the gift show next week. And John's probably going to be in charge of that show. Anyway, thank you so much, John, for being on the podcast. Tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
Thank you always for being on this show. You can find me on all the stuff on the social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and stuff like that. I look forward to next week. We're getting really close to 200, so we're going to have to. So I cannot wait for that episode. It's going to be super huge. Is it? Yeah, 2 more shows. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, John, where can people find you?
You can go to Facebook. Just type my name, Jonathan Stomos. Instagram, same thing, Jonathan Stomos. And I'm on Twitter too, but rarely on it. So it's all just type in my name. You should be able to find me there.
Awesome. Andrea, thank you so much for being on the show. Mistress of Whisperers. And where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere on Twitter, @Richards637. Also the same on Instagram, and right here on Facebook, it's Andrea Farina Richards. If you're looking for me, otherwise, you can just send over an interest or a like to the Behind the Iron Throne media page, and you'll see me, John, Chris, everybody commenting on that page. Any links to the BTIT Club page, or you can search in Facebook, With Fire Comes Blood. If you're one of those people who need to discuss and read along, it's a great place to go to get all of those needs filled, at least to keep the book relevant for you, so that you can kind of go through and be like me and know all the characters' names the very first time you hear them, because I took time to talk to other people too at the same time so that I didn't forget them all. However, it's been a pretty great experience with Fire and Blood. I do recommend that you guys come and check us out, join the conversation, and help us kind of research stuff. As I said, there's definitely areas to bridge between A Song of Ice and Fire and Blood if you're interested in it. But I'm on Facebook more times than not, so if you're looking for me, that's where you'll find me.
Excellent. All right, so you can find me at Chris J. Gray 7 on any social media you like. Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. It's Chris J. Gray and the number 7. If you can't remember any of this stuff, it's all in the description of the video or the podcast. Now, I highly recommend you come and join us live on our YouTube channel. You can interact with us. We try to read your comments. And, this is about community, not just about a bunch of people yelling and talking at you. So join us on our YouTube at BehindTheIronThrone.tv. Join us live. We've been recording around 7:30, 8 o'clock, give or take. If you like us on Facebook and you're a part of our Facebook group, BTIT, you'll get a notification. If you go to our page and subscribe, you'll get a notification as long as you turn notifications on. It's so far, a lot of people have been emailing me and messaging me saying that they like the YouTube better. The audio's better. I still got some work here to do in the studio, but so far we only had one issue. My camera overheated the other day, last episode. But other than that, everything's been working really good, and I'd love to have you guys in the chat. It changes the direction of the show, and it makes it feel more like a group community conversation, which is really what we're going for here. Not just us talking at you. We want to share. We want you to share. We want to grow this community. All right, so that being said, thank you guys for listening to Behind the Iron Throne, and we'll see you next time for another kick-ass podcast. See you guys.
See ya.
Night.
Good night, guys.